You ever watch tutorials and then you go to try to do it and it just doesn't work? Or it doesn't stick, or you have issues during the process? You might even see a video that says, learn how to fade fast, the best fade technique. Learn to fade in 5 minutes. Or new terms like God fade and high def taper, and it's all clickbait and you know it. So we're obviously searching for a secret, right? But I think deep down we all know what it actually is. It's patience, it's hard work, it's dedication, and it's pushing yourself and finding that strength to push on until you actually understand it. That's how clipper over comb is. This isn't a 5-minute video, this isn't a fast thing. This is for the dedicated learner. So if you've actually looked all over the internet like I have before I made this video, and you still find yourself scratching your head, this video is for you. I've worked very hard on this video, and I think it is one of the best tutorials on my channel, but most definitely my best on clipper over comb. So it isn't flashy, there's not a lot of cool edits. This is for the dedicated learner. This is for that person who's actually trying to figure this out. And I worked really hard on this video, and if you learned something, just go ahead and give me a little thumbs up, and you might even want to share it around because I really think this could help other people. So stick around to the end because I've even left a little bit of a homework assignment, and if you follow that, it's going to help you further your craft. It's going to help you further your understanding of this. So good luck, everybody. Check out this video. Thanks for stopping by, and let's get to it. We've got all our conversations out of the way. All right. Let's get back to talking about this clipper over comb. Okay, guys. Focus for a second here.
Let's do it.
All right. Let's start from the top again. What are the advantages or disadvantages between using clipper over comb versus scissor over comb?
An advantage number one would be it saves time.
Okay. We got shear over comb, we have clipper over comb. So obviously the clippers are going to save you some time, right?
Yeah.
So how should we employ each one of these, basically?
I think the scissors over comb are for more like light, like just a little bit, because you might dig in too much with the clipper over comb situation, so it's a gradual thing, more like an
Right.
eyeball type of thing.
Right. And earlier you were saying you were more comfortable with scissor over comb.
Yeah, I like it better.
Okay.
I can do both. I like the shears better personally.
Yeah.
But it depends on the hair too.
Right,
Some hair is
right.
more different than others.
Now I'll tell you why that could be. It's got a lot to do with what's going on with the comb. Okay. In both of these techniques, your comb needs to be completely still, meaning that you're not going to be banging into it with the clipper and moving it around, because this has to be basically that clipper guard that you're making. You're making a clipper guard out of thin air, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm doing scissor, the opportunity to push this comb in is a lot less because the scissors are a lot lighter and it's a lot easier to be more accurate. So it's a lot easier to do more like fine tuning, I would say. So these two techniques, they work so great together because clipper over comb is going to reduce all that bulk quickly, efficiently, and it might not be perfect. And I think that's part of clipper over comb that you guys got to realize, everybody has to realize, is clipper over comb is not going to be the end of the blend, okay? That's just going to reduce the chances of you needing to use your 3, your 4, your 5, your 6, and trying to blend it into some long length on top, and you are going to save a ton of time by skipping several of those steps. Because in essence, that's what it is. So we were talking about what the best, basically what the best clipper number to use to take you from, say, skin to scissors on top of some kind, or any length that you want to do on top, okay? The best length to use as a transition point is what? Remember we talked about that this morning.
It was like a 2 or 1.5.
Yeah, between a 1.5 or a 2, okay? And the reason why it's so nice to use a 1.5 or a 2 is because the width of this comb and a 1.5 to a 2 is very similar. Now it depends what kind of comb you're using. Personally, these are my favorite kind of combs to use. I don't like the larger ones. I don't like anything other than really these, okay? For scissor work, it's different, not necessarily the greatest comb for that. But for taking down good sections, doing flat tops, and having maneuverability, this comb is really good for it. But the thickness of this comb on the back is kind of the saving grace here. So when I have the thickness of the comb on the back, right, that means that if I just pushed this right flat up against the head and I just shaved whatever was sticking out, I would be left with around a 1.5, which is the advantage that I use to it. So what guard on the clipper will be used when we do the clipper overcomb? In order for it to be that 1.5, okay, I can use this clipper with nothing on it, a 0.
Yeah.
All right, and now I have that 1.5 length. If I just was to put this up against somebody's head and shave everything that stuck out, I would have that 1.5 length, right? So basically what's going on here is I want to do that from 0. I personally like to use the 0 when I do the clipper overcomb because I want to see exactly what's happening. Of course, if you're not comfortable with it and you guys are just starting out, if you're working on a real client, you might actually want to use a guard on your clipper while you're doing this if you're just starting out because you want to learn, right? And that will give you that additional space. So in that case, if you put a number 1 on here, plus a 1.5 here, okay, you're gonna be pretty close to a 3 when this is all said and done, okay? Now, the other thing is, I see a lot of people holding the comb wrong when they do clipper over comb, all right? Is this how we hold the comb ever?
No.
Whether we're doing scissor over comb or clipper over comb, we don't hold the comb like this. We have no range of motion like this. We got, what, 20 degrees of motion like this, okay? And when we're doing these techniques, we need to be rolling the comb towards us, right? And I don't have much roll here. So that's why it's important that when I grab this comb, I have it on the end and I'm able to basically almost twist this thing 180 degrees, okay? Which means that I can get up and underneath that hair, twist it out towards me and roll the comb towards me. And as soon as I begin cutting, I never cut with the comb tipped this direction. If the comb is tipped this direction, and I'm trying to work on, for instance, come here real quick. So like if I'm trying to work on the side of her head, right, and I have the comb tipped in this direction, I'm gonna cut a big line into her hair. So if it's tipped like this, when I go in, I'm gonna wind up cutting a big bald spot or a line or an issue, and that's what's gonna happen there. So the majority of the cutting during clipper over comb, does it happen on the top of the comb or the bottom of the comb?
Bottom.
It happens on the bottom of the comb because these are the hairs that are actually being lifted out properly. These hairs are in there consequently, but they're not lifted out properly until they reach the bottom of this comb. You understand what I'm saying? As we lift them up, they begin to stick out, they protrude from the bottom, and that's actually how we can be more accurate, okay? Now, as far as tipping the comb this way, if I was working above the parietal ridge or I'm working on a flat top, well, that's fine, okay? When I'm working on a flat top, my clipper over comb game needs to be strong when I'm working on flat tops. And probably doing flat tops is going to get you better at doing clipper over comb. So that would actually be like an exercise I would plan out for you guys to say like, okay, let's get a mannequin, let's start working on some flat tops, work on the clipper over comb for the sides in the blend. But if you can do the flat top on top, you can go through and get all them little hairs out, well, that's going to give you the most effective practice because when I do a flat top, if I push down on this comb, what's going to happen? Right?
It's over.
So this comb needs to be an immovable object. And I like to use the knuckles on my pinky or one of my other hands to sort of measure my length out. So if I'm doing clipper over comb on the top here, right, and I have it like this, then I will take my pinky, I will anchor like that, each and every opportunity that I can. I do the same thing when I'm working on the side of the head. I'll use the knuckle on my finger sometimes, or I'll use the pinky, whatever length that I'm trying to get. So if I'm trying to get a long enough length where I'm basically this far away from the head, well, then I'm using the pinky. If I'm closer, I'm using the knuckle. If I can anchor, I will anchor, okay? It's not always necessary to do that, but especially when you're taking down a large amount of hair and you're not sure what's underneath, this is kind of when you got to be careful. So if you get one of those kids who walks into the shop with hair that looks like, you know, extremely long, and he wants a skin fade, okay, you're gonna go put in that line on the side of his head, you're gonna have no idea where you're actually working. You're not gonna be able to see anything, you can't see a scalp, you don't know anything about what's going on. And even if you wanna try to get in there and do some clipper over comb, you gotta reduce a lot of that weight. So I would recommend going back through, like I talked about with the 1.5, knocking that all the way out, okay, coming off the parietal ridge and scooping off the side of the head, just to get yourself like an idea of what's going on under there. Then create the area with the 1.5 that you want to start at, and then begin the blend, okay? Again, just another word, when we're knocking down that bulk, right? In this case and in this scenario, we do want to be scooping out a little bit. we do want to sort of be beginning the blend within an accurate area. So if I'm gonna decide that the blend is gonna be here, then that means that once I get here, I'm holding it flat till I get here, and then I'm beginning to lift out. And then I'm beginning to lift out. And thus, I'm starting the blend here, but obviously it's gonna be far from perfect if that's all I've done so far, okay? But that's why we know we're just setting ourselves up for the clipper over comb, and then when we come back in, we're gonna be fine, because we're gonna be able to see what we're doing. So when you come back in, now you might see some jagged looking hair, and it's into this long length on top. Obviously, we need this blend to be nice and smooth up the side of the head, right? Okay, so when I come in there with the comb, all right, if I have it tipped in this way, obviously I'm going to be creating problems for myself, right? So when I come in with the comb is always in this position when we cut. When we cut, we begin lifting at the same time. So we begin cutting and lifting at the same time, and we use the pencil grip, all right? So we're going to use the pencil grip just like you're holding your clipper as if it's a pencil, and we're going to begin cutting and lifting at the same time, rolling the comb out towards ourselves. And if we can, we'll anchor with our pinky. If it's too far away, we won't. I can't tell you how many haircuts a week I do totally clipper over comb, and I never touch a guard, and I never touch a thing. And it's perfect for certain scenarios, like the older gentleman who comes in, he tells you, I just want barely anything off, I just want it cleaned up. Well, that's cool, because when he comes in, it's very easy for me to just taper his sideburns a little bit, cut around his ear, line him on the back of the neck, shape around this sideburn, and then go through and just take a tiny, tiny bit off all the way around, and it's very easy for me to see what I'm doing, and I'm watching how it lays, and I'm looking how one side to the other. How do we maintain balance from, say, the left side to the right side during clipper over comb? Because this is a little bit of the difficulty doing clipper over comb, because you're not using a number 3. A number 3 would give you the exact same length on both sides, right? You're not using a number 2. A number 2 will give you the same length on both sides. You're using the comb, and as soon as you bang this comb in too hard, you're going to wind up cutting it a little shorter on the other side, or maybe a little bit longer on one side or the other. So that's where I'll recommend to you that you got to use the strongest barber tool you got. What's that?
Your mirror?
No, your eyes.
Okay.
Your eyes are the best tool that you got. All right? Yeah, you are close, and he's not wrong. The mirror is also what you got to be using, but you know, in order to see the mirror, you got to have some eyes.
That's true.
You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. So in order to see the mirror, you got to have some eyes. So we're going to look at the clipper over comb when we're done, and we're going to be able to comb through it in a couple different ways. We'll be able to check if it's even on both sides, but also, like, one of my other favorite techniques to check if it's even. Sometimes what I like to do is I like to take my fingers, set everything down, take my fingers, slide it all the way into the base of her scalp, and kind of feel it and pull out. As I began feeling it and pulling it out, I'd be looking in the mirror at the same time, and I'm telling you, like, you might think that this is difficult to figure out which side is longer than the other. It is so easy to get that barometer. Like, you can so feel it. Like, when this hand is still out and this one's done and you've already let go of the hair, okay, you'll know which side needs to be cut a little bit more. So that's a great technique to use towards the end of the cut. But of course, when we're done with the clipper over comb, what are we going back and doing anyways? Shear work. We're going to go back, we're going to do some shear over comb. And if we're doing shear over comb, we're going to pick up those mistakes very easy. And we might even use a texturizing shear or a texturizing technique on certain people too, because sometimes everything is cut properly, but the hair is real curly, right? And some of those curls don't lay that great, which is where, in some occasions, you can take your texturizing shears in some of those areas that are not laying right, and you can go in through there with your scissor over comb technique, yet you're going to be using your texturizing shears, and you'll see that that'll come with a really smooth, you'll come away with a smooth blend in that scenario. As far as shear over comb goes, what I recommend to you guys for just starting out, what I would recommend to you is to do it with your texturizing shears. Okay? It'll take you a little bit longer, it'll be a little less accurate, but the opportunity for you to make a mistake is very low, because 90% of men's haircuts, you can take the texturizing scissor and you can put it just about anywhere, and unless you're putting it too close to the base of the scalp on someone with longer hair, you're going to be fine. Generally on the sides of the hair, you can run that texturizing shear until you're blue in the face. Okay? So the little mistakes that you could make with the actual shears will reduce significantly if we use the texturizing shears. Another quick note, in front of clients, you probably don't want to refer to them as thinning shears unless they've been adamant about they need their hair thinned out. Like if your client sits down, he's like, God, it's so thick, it's just so thick. Can you run those thinning shears through there, please? Can you just thin this out a little bit? Yes, okay? But a lot of clients that you'll use the texturizing shears or the thinning shears on, they don't have that much hair. And if they have a very thin head of hair to begin with, and you tell them that you're gonna pick up the thinning shears, you know, it's just not a good recipe. Obviously, they're not gonna be happy with that, right? So you gotta think about being a little tactful when you say it. I've had the instance where somebody says, "You're not using thinning shears on me, are you?" I say, "No, sir, these are texturizing shears." Okay? Just to, oh, okay. And he went, oh, okay. So cool. So we got that out of the way. But like, that was me being light on my feet and telling him that, but I was already aware of that because of that. So like, sometimes you're using texturizing shears in order to relax a curl or get the hair to lay properly or look good. And that's ultimately best for the client, so that's why we're doing this. You know, we want them to have that nice smooth haircut that they could get. Okay, back to clipper over comb for a second. There's basically, I would say between 3 or 4 techniques of the way that you put the comb in. So the one we talked about so far is the rolling of the comb, right? Okay, so I roll this comb out towards me and I cut what sticks out. The other way, which is kind of nice, is I notice that there's an area of hair that's not laying well. Or maybe I have a dark spot or a shadow that I want to eliminate. I can simply just slip this in there, hold it still right on the area I want, and I can just come up the comb, being careful not to push this comb. I can just come up the comb and I can take off what I need to take off, and then I can step back, look at it, go back in, step back, look at it, go back in, until I have it perfect. Okay, just to recap, we got 1, we got 2. Okay, another way that you can do clipper over comb is by putting it vertically, sliding it into the hair, and tipping it out. I'm putting this comb into the hair, I'm tipping it out, and I'm working up without needing to move this. That's the advantage here. I don't need to move this comb. I can just cut what sticks out, cut what sticks out. Obviously, this would be better for like fine tuning and detailing because you're not able to take out that large amount of hair with this technique, but it is useful, especially in say like the bang area. Like if you have someone who spikes up their bangs, okay, and you come in and you're lifting it up on the corners and you're doing it sort of vertically, you're kind of in between horizontal and vertical, you're on a diagonal. The other one obviously we talked about before was again with doing the flat tops. We're working on top, we're holding it flat, we're being careful not to push into it, and that's where most people go wrong with the flat tops. So you have the roll, you basically have the scooping, you have the vertical hold, and then you have the flat top. So that's sort of like the basic 4 variations of how you're gonna hold it. And sometimes when you do the flat top, you might switch from the pencil grip to this grip. This would be clipper position number 4, according to the book. So anyways, you might switch to this grip because you might feel a little bit more accurate. Personally, I like to use my OSTER Volt for any of this work. I wouldn't use any clipper that I felt couldn't get through the hair, because if I'm trying to remove a giant swath of hair and I need it gone and I need to save time, because the whole reason we're doing this is why?
Save time.
Exactly. The whole reason we're doing clipper over comb is to save time. And if I can save time, then I want to have the most powerful clipper that I possibly have in my arsenal. If all it is for you is this one, great. But if you have your detachable clipper, all of what we talked about is going to be done with the detachable clipper. And now, a word from our sponsors. We don't have any sponsors, okay? This is just me trying to make a difference. I make all the videos, I edit them, I shoot them, I film them, I got all the cameras, the equipment, computers, and it's all very expensive to make these YouTube videos. Okay, anybody who's interested in checking out some of the tools that I use, like this is my total favorite setup. It's battle tested. I've used it for many years. Most of the stuff here has been here for a long time and it works excellent. Go ahead and click that link in the drop down below and you can check those out. And I finally got some merch up on the channel, and if you decide to scoop one, it really helps the channel out. If this channel helps you out and you want to support it and you want to see more of it, anything you do like that will really help me out. And also I want to do more projects product giveaways and stuff like that, but it's expensive. And I left a link to my PayPal down below. If you guys kick in a little donation, we're gonna start getting in some of this. I can start giving away more clippers, and I can start doing some more things. You find it in your heart to throw even just as little as $1 or $2, it could go a long way to getting some of these clippers in some of these people's hands that might need them, and I can continue to do this for more people. Alright, so I have my 1.5 on here, and this mannequin's already been cut a few times, but it'll serve as an example because all I want to do is blend in this side, and I want to show the efficiency of clipper over comb. So when I'm done with the 1.5, I can begin scooping out and beginning my blend into that area that's a little bit rough, right? So there's not a whole lot going on here, but I just want to begin that blend going into that. Once I got that done, I'm going to pop this off, and I'm going to lay my comb in all the way. I'm coming in like this, and I'm rolling out this way. Again, my pinky is also acting as an anchor. I was already doing it, and I didn't even recognize it. So I come in, either my pinky or my knuckle, and I want to figure out the area I want to begin, and I want to begin lifting. Cutting and lifting. Cutting and lifting. And each time that I do it, I'm just stepping back, and I'm sort of looking for it. I'm looking for how's the blend looking? Like, look at how quick that I already knocked that out. And this is why it's so efficient. So I'm gonna come around here. You can see I have this little corner sticking off here. Okay? I'm simply gonna set this comb in right where that corner is at, tip it out. Okay, I'm gonna show the other technique here. Set this comb in, tip it out a little bit. Now notice that I'm not banging into my comb. If I bang into my comb, I'm gonna cut that spot that I just cut there. You can't really see it on a mannequin, but you will see it on a real person. So when you come in, you want to come gentle on the comb, and the comb is the strongest part of this thing. Even though this clipper weighs a lot, and it's easy to bang it, but we want to be careful. When we come in, our comb is not to be moved. Our comb is not to be trifled with. All right? So the exercise that I want you guys to do today is we're actually going to do the flat top. I want everybody to try to do a flat top today. If we can all find mannequins, that's great, because this is really going to help us with the clipper over comb, because it's really the only way to do it. Now, just a quick word to the wise about flat tops. Sometimes on some hair, especially probably this hair, you're going to need to get some product in there, and you're probably going to want to blow dry it so that it's standing up the best that you can get it to stand up. Then we'll go through and we'll use the typical flat top technique where we'll start in the middle, and we're going to go through and we're going to try to make everything flat. And also on the sides, I want that all blended in, and that's going to be the exercise that we need to do. If you want to get good at clipper over comb, one of the best ways you can do it is by practicing your flat tops. So. Another thing you could be doing too, just to get the motion down, is if you have the cap to your clipper, you know, the one that you would put it away with after you oil it, if you have that cap, you could just go alongside your mannequin with that cap in and just get the motion and get the feel for it. Because if I do that without that, I'm gonna wind up yanking this hair straight out. So I don't want to do that to a real person, and if you are working on a real person, you could just simply put the cap on, and you could go through and you could practice this motion alongside your mannequin's head, and I could go around and adjust you or help you a little bit if you need it. So the other thing too is once we begin our flat top, I want you to realize that with the flat top, a lot of people's hair grows, either it's growing straight back or it's growing straight forward. When you blow dry it, you want to blow dry it in the opposite direction to get it to stand up the best that you can. And then when you actually come to pick up the hair to begin the cut, if you're working on one of those people that their hair, the pattern comes down this way, then you want to begin in the front and start working your way back towards the apex. Now, if your client's hair is growing back naturally, then you want to begin in the crown and start working your way back to the bangs. Start working your way back to the fringe area or the bang area. All right, I'm gonna I'll let you finish up this one, you do the rest. And the rest of you, if you have a mannequin, let's see if we can find one. And if you can't find one, let's see if we can find one.